Back to Last Chance for Victory. This is how I'm going to handle the actual game review as opposed to the series system review. This was my first look at the system, so I did a separate video for that. Okay, well, we can put the series rolls aside. We know we kind of like that. You get a bunch of crap in this game. Good crap. First of all, tons and tons of counters, of course. Arrival charts for the different scenarios, segmented as need be by the scenarios. There's some typos and such not in here. You got to be a little careful with that. You got your usual disc turn record tracks. Here's the special rules, the scenario rules. But in addition to all that, then you have the scenario book itself, which is humongous. And there are no little charts in here. If you want charts for these games, the line of battle ones, they're an option. The gamers put them up on their website, and you can get them either for line of battle itself, or you could reconvert these games over to RSS. They have not only the charts for that, but they also have the conversion rules. They have conversion rules for old RSS games to LOB, but they also have backporting it to RSS if you don't like the line of battle. Basically, you'll use RSS rules 4.0, which are not available in any games. I have 3.0 in my South Mountain. 4.0 is apparently what this was supposed to be released under, and then Dean decided, screw it, I'm going to rewrite the whole system. You also have this little introductory scenario here covering what part of the Peach Orchard fight. Which should be interesting. Good way to, kind of play with the system, I guess, and get used to some stuff. Might be easier. Alright, let's take a look at what is special. When they screwed something up on the map, and I have a little printout in black and white too, of that's available. I found that, I think, on Console World. I don't remember for sure. Getting sick of Board Game Geek. Got banned another time. Okay. So, the problem here, or the interesting thing here, which I consider somewhat of a problem, is that Dean heavily scripted the first day of this game. He feels, rightly I believe, that most Gettysburg games, including Thunder, including probably this Hallowed Ground, don't end up feeling like Gettysburg. The Confederates just pretty much punch their way through and are attacking Cemetery Hill and Culp's Hill on day one. So a number of rules have been put in place to try to keep the action on the first day approximately what you'd expect. You don't have to use these. One of the options in the game is to throw out all of these. I don't remember, but certainly you don't have to use any of these special rules that try to make it fit that first day. Those include restrictions on the Confederate forces so that they don't just go pushing forward right from the beginning. So they kind of have to stop near the seminary. They give restrictions on Lee's ability to issue orders, and for that matter on the Union command. Remember, Meade doesn't show up until very late on the first day, I think. However, Reynolds is on the map, And unlike most games, part of the scripting, Reynolds will die. And then you have to deal with the situation that he's decided on. And you really do have to. You can choose not to follow the script, but there are penalties for it. For example, if the Union gives up Seminary Ridge, what you actually end up with is basically the unscripted game. If the Union does not take Reynolds' defensive line and accept it, if he falls back to the hills too early, then the Confederates are loosened from some of the restrictions on Lee that prevent him from writing a lot of orders. And I believe he actually upgrades in awareness as well and becomes very effective. Special rules downgrading or degrading certain leaders. So Longstreet sucks when he's attacking, but he's pretty decent at taking move orders. Rhodes and Early are good on the first day, I think, and then they flip over and become kind of crappy for the rest of the battle. Slocum, who I didn't even use, basically. He has his own little wing he can use, but he's pretty damn bad. Yeah, the Looking for Glory rule. This is the Dan Sickles rule. Confederate gets to choose one Union Corps to go do something vaguely stupid. It didn't have a lot of effect on my game, for reasons that have to do with the scripting, actually. In fact, my whole game was influenced by the scripting. So yeah, you have lots and lots of variants, most of which throw all the scripting away. And then you have the victory conditions, which we also want to talk about in some detail. So let's put what Dean states here. For most players, telling them that they will recognize it when they win is plenty, but a minority will take that as a license to do something pointless, like building a fortress around a few hexes, ignoring all their other concerns, and ruin the fun for both sides. To avoid this, they give reasons to do stuff. Okay. So what are the reasons in this case? The key reason is to have unlimbered artillery near the cemetery gatehouse, within 4 hexes of that. That basically will indicate that the Confederates have taken control of at least a significant portion of Cemetery Hill. The Union wins if they avoid this, and there are no Confederate units anywhere on Taneytown Road and the Baltimore Pike. Alright. Well, in my game, it ended up being a draw. Because, by these rules, because the Confederates had units on Taneytown Road. Fairly or unfairly, if I looked at it at the who clearly won this battle, I would say the Union clearly won the battle. Maybe more so than they did the actual Gettysburg. Trying to apply any kind of logic that I understand about the situation. That's phrased wrong, but any kind of logic to what I understand about the situation in Gettysburg, I come up with a fairly significant Union victory out of what I played. Yet, because the Confederates had some routing forces on Taneytown Road, they managed to draw. Now, you could say, well, the Union should have broken them earlier. Yeah. They were broken. That's enough. You know, they weren't coming back, and the rest of the Confederate force was kind of positioned on and near the Round Tops, and was really in an untenable position without that road. So as far as I can at all reasonably state, had I extended the game longer, the Confederates probably would not be on the road if the Union attack succeeded. Had I not extended the game long, had the Union not been able to continue with an attack, which was quite likely actually, the Confederates could have still parked on the road and still could have caused a draw by the rules. That, to me, is problematic. But writing victory conditions for tactical games is really, really tough. And I don't know quite how to interpret this one, but I know that in my heart I say the Union won this one pretty big, even if technically they didn't win it. And they could destroy the Confederate army, and one little doinker unit could run out and sit on the road where the Union doesn't have orders. That's actually something I didn't mention in my discussion of the line of battle review itself. I don't know if it's CWB or if it's me. If I just interpreted CWB more, but I found approaching the orders in this game, I felt far more restrained than I did in CWB, to the extent that I could only do geographical orders, and you can't express reasonable stuff that way. There is also a specific prohibition to using timed orders. I can't say at 2 o'clock do this. I'm not sure how reasonable that is either. Dean makes a statement that, well, the armies didn't operate on a clock particularly. Yeah, but generals had clocks, and you could express hourly information. Whether or not orders ever actually did is a different matter, though. And it's hard to tell because some of them were given verbally, like Lee going and talking to Longstreet. Or maybe not every word was recorded. Okay. So, what about the scripting? The scripting actually caused my battle to go off the hinges and not be anything like the historical Gettysburg, which can be both an interesting positive or negative factor. Because I played into that in the sense that there's something I always want to do with the Union. When I'm given terrain objectives as my sole objectives, I want to build a perimeter outside of them. I do not have any desire to defend at the objective itself. That's too risky. I want my defense further forward, even if the terrain's not necessarily as good, and then as I get weakened, I'll defend the key point itself. Cemetery Hill is the key point in this game. There's no question about that. And right or wrong, and I don't think that it's reasonable to argue that that's the way of determining victory in and of itself, and only that. Right or wrong, that is what the game postulates. And there's reasons to avoid, say, doing a casualty count on that, because you don't have a chart, you don't have a sheet to mark off, all you have is these things. You have to count every casualty in the game, like you do in, say, TSS, and that's a pain in the ass. Alright, so the I'm sorry, I'm very tired. The victory conditions as they were led me to desire to throw out a perimeter. The nature of the arrival of reinforcements means that the Union's not going to hold Seminary Ridge. They're going to fall back. But on day 2, Lee is not able to issue any orders until 8 a.m., and they're going to take some time to take place. The Union Army probably has numerical superiority, and certainly has a local numerical superiority that they can throw into play in the area of the Seminary Ridge. So what I did, and what I've done in other games, including Terrible Swift Sword, is I threw my army out towards Seminary Ridge, and done took it back, So I got my perimeter back, and now I've got a bigger army. That, however, convinced the Confederates to go around the south and to position there. And that's a mixed situation where the Confederates had, they lost their connection to their artillery supply wagons. So by day 3, the Confederates are sitting south of the Round Tops, essentially. Well, the Union never occupied the Round Tops, and that's, I think, the Union's fault. Had they done so, maybe the Confederates wouldn't have gone with that southern flanking move. So you can say, well, you failed as the Union, and that may be correct. I failed to play the game correctly as the Union. I feel like the situation that ended up, had the Confederates held in a viable position, the line that they formed a J running across Taneytown Road to Rock Creek, and then down through the Round Tops. Had they held that position, I think you can make an argument that the Union's in trouble. That they'd have to withdraw, but the Confederates would have to withdraw too. The situation that actually occurred, though, at the end of the third day, the Union's breaking Longstreet, and pretty much the Confederates are just on the Round Tops. That's not tenable for the Confederates. And I could have played it out further to see more detail of that, and whether or not, the Union keeps pursuing Longstreet, in which case the Confederates definitely have to get out of there. But any visualization that I had of what could come after that felt like the Confederates just did not have a line they could hold for the next day or whatever to help their supply wagons. Also, they're out of position. Sure, Stuart might be protecting the supply wagons and the Union cav harassing them, but in terms of on-map armies, a damaged corps or something could be sent off that way to chase Stuart away and to take the Confederate wagons. It really looked like, I just do not see the victory conditions as being sufficient to describe reasonable actions in this case. Anyhow, technically, the Confederates managed to draw in the game, where I think that rule of thumb of it should be obvious who won showed to me that the Union won this one. The situations were, the deployment that I used, the strategies, the movements were definitely informed by the victory conditions. There's no question. I wouldn't be interested in Taneytown Road under most Gettysburg games. It's kind of cool that this one actually makes that an important condition. However, I think they're a little simplistic. Yeah. So I'll walk away from the game saying technically, it was a draw, but realistically the Union won this one. And that can feel kind of funny. Overall, I do like the scripting, because most Gettysburg games feel like you're not playing Gettysburg. Of course, this one didn't feel like I was playing Gettysburg during day 3. Day 3 felt very different, but it was neat to look at that what if, a what if that never develops in any other game, because there's no real reason to go down there. In most games, if they have terrain objectives, which most do, Cemetery Hill more or less guarantees you the win. Cemetery and Culps almost assuredly does. And then some of them have points for Round Tops, and honestly, they seem like a waste of time because your prize is Cemetery and Culp. So you end up fighting out more of something that looks like the real Gettysburg than all the scripting and these more realistic, perhaps, victory conditions gave me. Such is life, right? Like I said, the victory conditions are a very tough thing to capture in such a way that they'll motivate people. And someone other than me who didn't believe in a perimeter defense might very well have caused a more historical situation. If you're going to make a terrain location that important, I believe that I want layered defenses that go out fairly far back. All right, up it goes.